It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines, plus those that make you go,
Great morning. This is Rania Saadi with Ahmed Dawood, and we have so much to discuss here on the Morning Majlis in the second hour of the program today. And we're going to be talking about right now schools coming back on Sunday here in Sharjah, because the Sharjah Private Education Authority and Sharjah Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Team have announced the gradual return of students to schools on Sunday, but that is within the direct and hybrid education systems, following all precautionary measures to ensure the safety and health of its students. So we will discuss the exact details on the return process and how it's going to be.
That's right, Rania. And we're also going to travel around the world to see what countries are doing in light of the spread of COVID-19 in their countries, particularly the United Kingdom, which has seen an alarming rise in coronavirus cases. And yesterday, we reported on the fact that the country's science advisors said we could reach up to 50,000 cases per day. They're saying that coronavirus is out of control and we need to do something about it. And Prime Minister Boris Johnson has imposed new coronavirus rules as well on the country. So we're going to be talking in general about what the United Kingdom is doing. The big takeaway that just jumps at me is that these new restrictions could last for 6 months.
Oh my God.
So we're going to talk about why these restrictions are this way, why they are 6 months, what exactly is happening around the United Kingdom. And we're also going to give you a glimpse into what is happening in other countries as they also try to fend off a new wave of COVID-19 infections. So stay tuned for that as well.
And today is all about celebrating Saudi Arabia's 90th National Day. Today is September 23rd, and that is the day when we celebrate KSA, and the UAE will be joining the kingdom in its celebrations through the slogan, or under the slogan, Together Forever, to confirm the deep ties between the two countries. So we will celebrate KSA today in just a few moments as well.
And the big vaccine discussion is coming up on the show as well. How soon will a COVID-19 vaccine be available for use to the public, and where is it going to come from? We're going to talk about some of the leading candidates as well. We've seen some, in fact, that seem very close to distributing it publicly, and here we're referring to Russia. So we'll talk about what the scientific community has been saying in response to that. So stay tuned for those discussions. Our text lines are open 4215 throughout the program. Join the discussion and stay tuned to Pulse 95.
Pulse 95. The Morning Majlis. Join the conversation.
School is round the corner, and this is a pretty big announcement by the Sharjah Private Education Authority. They have confirmed that schools in Sharjah will reopen next week, starting on Sunday, following all checks on their readiness and COVID-19 countermeasures. And they will resume for direct and hybrid lessons for the first time since schools closed all the way back 6 months ago because of the pandemic, when they switched fully to distance learning. So they're going to be deploying a hybrid model.
But before that, I'm happy for the students, but I'm not happy for myself.
You're not happy for your
No.
congestions, possibly?
Yes, because of the busier roads. Now I'm thinking, because I live in Sharjah, obviously,
Yeah.
and this is going to be not good news for me, but great news for students. Let's embrace, all right, let's embrace that day for the students. Actually, schools in Sharjah were initially supposed to reopen on August 31st, which was the first day of the current academic year, along with schools in other Emirates, of course. But in a surprise announcement on August 25th, SBEA had said schools in Sharjah would adopt 100% distance learning for the first 2 weeks of the new academic year. Again, on September 8th, SPEA said the reopening scheduled for September 13 was pushed back another 2 weeks. Now, the decisions to reschedule the reopening on both occasions was based on the prevailing health status, obviously, at the time in Sharjah. Now, SPEA, in conjunction with the Emergency Crisis and Disaster Management Team in Sharjah, has reiterated schools will reopen as planned on September 27th. That is this Sunday. However, not all students will return to all schools at the same time, as some schools will follow a phased, or let's just say gradually, reopening process. Now, as for the official visits, the development follows visits by officials from SPEA in partnership with other departments to private schools to check their ability to reopen while following precautionary measures against the coronavirus. And those checks are apparently now complete, paving the way for schools reopening next week. But it is important to note that all school staff have been undergoing COVID-19 tests, as well as students aged 12 and above who have opted for in-person classes. Many other students have selected full distance learning for this term, which ends in December. But SPA has been counting down the days to reopening or by posting the number of remaining days. And now it's 5 days away.
Yeah, led up to this decision, and the Sharjah Private Education Authority has been meticulous as far as ensuring a safe environment for students at schools. So schools will essentially open with a temperature check on the school bus, on the entrance to the schools as well. Classroom and bus capacity will be reduced in order to maintain social distancing. Wearing of masks of all staff and students will be required, except for students below the age of 6. Frequent sanitization of all facilities and isolation rooms for suspect COVID-19 cases will also be a major feature of these reopened schools. But yes, it goes without saying, and it is worth stressing as well, the fact that the Sharjah Private Education Authority is meticulous about this, about ensuring schools are prepared for this. They visited each and every one of those schools, inspected the devices they've set up, the temperature checks, sanitization measures, mask wearing, or mask distributing areas as well. So this is a very careful reopening, and one that has been hotly anticipated by families across the Emirate, as a recent survey conducted in the United Arab Emirates found that the majority of parents would like their kids to physically go back to school as opposed to be learning via distance learning.
I'm just thinking about how early I have to get up on Sunday.
Yeah, you're going to have to do that a lot earlier. But I think we've been spoiled. I mean, we've been doing this for months.
We have been spoiled for a long time now.
Yeah, with the clear highways.
But I think there are a lot of people like me right now. They're thinking, okay, I have to get up earlier to get to work now. Yeah, so people out there living in Sharjah, just like me, we need to get up earlier on Sunday.
Yep,
we will be seeing a lot of school buses.
Exactly. That's a big one, indeed. Let us know how this development impacts you. The reopening of schools here in the Emirate of Sharjah. Text us at 4215. How do you feel about this development? Are you looking forward to having your kids back in school? Stay tuned to Pulse 95 on the Morning Majlis. We're going to be talking about more developments from the GCC region. Saudi National Day. That's a big thing to look forward to. Stay tuned to Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to the program. And we're talking the race for a COVID-19 vaccine. We've got a number of leading candidates from around the world. One vaccine that's got everybody talking, especially in light of the UN General Assembly, is the Russian vaccine. That is one that has been the subject of some criticism by the scientific community over the speed at which its clinical trials are being conducted, and the speed as well of when it is being deployed. But Russia plans to begin deliveries of its vaccine to partner countries as early as November, according to officials. The vaccine is named Sputnik 5. It's still undergoing large-scale clinical trials, but has already shown a great deal of promise and secured approval for use from Russian regulators. And interestingly, in his UN General Assembly speech, President Vladimir Putin said that UN staff in New York could get a free shot of this vaccine as well. So that one was pretty interesting, and is so confident in his COVID-19 vaccine that he announced that Russia would also be ready to shoulder some of the legal liability should anything whatsoever go wrong as well.
Absolutely. And coming here to the UAE, we're talking about the UAE vaccine. The health ministry has highlighted the UAE's success in the clinical trials for its COVID-19 vaccine that's developed by Sinopharm. And it has demonstrated efficacy and effectiveness and its ability to curb the pandemic consequences. And in line with that, 3 health officials and medics in a Sharjah hospital have received their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. This just came in. And the jab was approved for use last week after tests found that the vaccine is to be safe and effective in preventing a person from developing COVID-19. We know that the country's health minister, Abdulrahman Al-Awais, received a shot just last week. He said the inactive vaccine could be used in cases of emergency involving the healthcare staff to protect them from the virus. Assistant Undersecretary for Hospital Sector, Dr. Yusuf Al-Sarkal, also Assistant Undersecretary for Centers and Health Clinics, Dr. Hussein Al-Rand, and also Assistant Undersecretary for Support Services, Awad Al-Kitbi. All 3 have received their first shots as well. And a dose of the vaccine has also been administered to the medical and nursing staff at Al-Qasimi Hospital for Women and Children.
Yeah, this is an exciting development here in the United Arab Emirates. A vaccine developed by the Chinese pharmaceutical company Sinopharm in cooperation with Abu Dhabi's G42. And the United Arab Emirates government said that prior to licensing the vaccine for emergency and limited use, they considered target groups, the characteristics of the vaccine, and clinical studies as well, and all relevant available scientific evidence before going forth with this. No major adverse side effects. The vaccine's been largely successful in these trials as well. So a great deal of optimism booming across the country about this vaccine development in particular, and a very important one to authorize its emergency use to medical personnel who are routinely exposed to high viral loads of COVID-19 on their day-to-day work.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting the evaluation of the vaccine for emergency use by frontline workers was based on the criteria for qualifying approvals, taking into account the target groups, the product characteristics, preclinical and clinical study data, and all relevant available scientific evidence. And let's not forget that the health ministry also followed all measures to control the quality, safety, and effectiveness of this vaccine, including the emergency use of the product with a scope defined by the country's health legislation authorities, identification of the number of target groups, the dose, and also vaccination system itself. This is in addition to monitoring, of course, and reporting negative effects and providing information supportive of safety, efficacy, and manufacturing. But up till now, no negative effects have been shown.
Yeah, no negative effects have been shown. And the hope here by the World Health Organization's chief scientists is that a vaccine used around the world would at least be 70% effective. But even a vaccine that is 50% effective would also be considered for mass deployment and would definitely play a big role in curbing the spread of the coronavirus. And having spoken to officials from G42 here on the Morning Majlis, they were optimistic about the deployment of the vaccine by the end of this year to large-scale populations as well. So we're going to continue keeping a close eye on this development in particular and where vaccines are going. But as far as the Sinopharm developed vaccine in the United Arab Emirates, it's one to be very optimistic about, with promising results so far.
Also, just a reminder, and another development here from the UAE. Teachers at Abu Dhabi's public schools have been allowed also to opt for the COVID-19 vaccines that are being offered in the UAE under emergency approval to frontline workers. So they are also included in the list of those receiving the UAE COVID-19 vaccine. Teaching staff, administrative staff, and their families must register before September 24th. So today is the last day if they would like to receive their vaccine. That is according to a senior government official confirming this.
Absolutely. So we'll keep you posted on this development. Join us on the text line if you have any questions or queries about vaccinations, because there's a lot of it is shrouded in mystery for a layperson. And when I came across this as well, how vaccines work, I mean, initially prior to COVID-19, we thought a vaccine had to be 100% effective. But we learn more and more every day, especially about how these trials are conducted. So check us out. 4215 are the text lines. We're also live on YouTube at Pulse 95 Radio. And stay tuned. We've got more stories coming up on the show.
This is Pulse 95.
Sharjah.